Well, it's another beautiful morning out by Barron's Alberta today, and the barley is heading out nicely, and it is just starting to fill. So we're just coming into the milk stage here now. So getting some liquid fill in these kernels here now, which is nice to see. So we're now, of course, beyond ideal fungicide timing. So I think I won't be talking about that quite so much anymore, which will be nice. And yeah, we're just going to be making sure no late disease develops or grasshoppers become a problem in these fields now. Well, the peas by Nobleford this week are looking great. We're still flowering really strong, lots and lots of flowers, and there's quite a lot of pods getting set all the way down. So these guys here have been set for a little while now. See, it looks like we got about 5 or 6 peas in that pod, so not wonderful, but not too bad either. And there will definitely be some better ones in this field. But now we do start to see there's some mycosporelia down here and some ascochyta down there. So there is a little bit of disease starting in these peas here, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. Well, here pulling up to this barley field, there's a huge amount of grasshoppers. There's a kind of a graft strip that runs around this field. You can see they're feeding on this grass right along the edge of the field here. Huge numbers of them jumping around in here. They're up on the barley. They are feeding on the barley. They're not cutting the stems yet, but there is quite a bit of feeding on some of these leaves here. So this is definitely a field where we should be spraying the headlands with something like Coragen. There's a grassy strip that runs right through the middle of the field too, and I'm gonna go check that out, but I suspect it's gonna be much the same thing. It's gonna have heavy grasshopper numbers. All right, here's the edge of a durum field, and I don't know if you can see them, but there's just hundreds of these little grasshoppers bouncing around in here. And they are starting to cause a little bit of damage inside the durum. There is the odd leaf here and there that's getting chewed on, but I'm more concerned with later on once the crop starts to dry down. Quite often the last bit of green on the plant is going to be this little bit right here underneath the head. And when that's the last bit of green, guess where they cut it off, and then your heads all end up on the ground. So the best product for controlling grasshoppers at this stage is going to be something like Coragen or Volium. I prefer just straight Coragen. And there is a 3-way rate on it. You can do 50 mils per acre, which is the low rate, 100 mils, kind of your middle rate, and your 150 mils, which will be your long-term residual. Last year, I saw that give me over 3 weeks of residual control on grasshoppers, whereas the low rate will probably give you about a week. So I kind of like to split the difference and do that 101 mils to the acre rate, and that'll give you probably a good 2 weeks of control and will help prevent them from chewing on your leaves like this guy right here. Here you can see some more. The flag leaf is cut off right here on this guy. Well, I haven't showed the potatoes in a couple of weeks, but here they are. They're flowering nicely. I believe these are Rangers, these ones here. And they're looking pretty good down below. They've definitely gained considerable size since I showed these last about 2 weeks ago. So these are looking pretty good now. They're pretty much at the point where I start to need a shovel to dig them up. I can't just pull them out of the ground anymore. Well, it's been about 2 weeks now since this field got dumped on by 11 inches of rain. And as you can see, there's quite a difference along the high water mark. So the stuff that was above the water mark is heading out quite nicely. The stuff that was underwater for at least a few days is substantially stunted and a little farther behind in development. We are also seeing a little bit more leaf disease, but you can really see how much trash came out of that water as it floated through the field, and it just, yeah, the high water mark here is just loaded full of organic matter. So it'll be interesting seeing what that's going to do. Well, it's time to dust off the hoe and get back to checking seed row. This has been reseeded oats. This was where the fall rye was. It's now getting irrigated, so I'm just in the dryland corner here, taking a look. And there we go. There is a seed right there. So that is about 3/4 of an inch deep. Yeah, there's some more. Oh, there we go. There's even more. So that's about an inch deep. So it looks like the main band was about an inch, which is about perfect. And with temperatures the way they are now and the pivots going around, we should have emergence pretty quick. Well, the Alderon wheat over by Colehurst is looking pretty good. We're just coming into head emergence. They're still kind of inside the canopy here, so we need to wait a few more days for them to come out. Probably Friday or Saturday, but we have a fair bit of leaf disease in here. There's a little bit of rust. There's some septoria, some stagnosporia. There's a little bit of tan spot, pretty much just about everything in here, but this is the one I'm concerned about right now. It's looking like we do have some bacterial stripe developing in here. It's generally spread by water, which we've certainly had enough of in the last little while here. And unfortunately, a fungicide won't do anything for it since it's bacterial. Well, here's a canola field that is pretty much at full bloom. So you can see on these main stems here, we pretty much have almost no buds left, sometimes just 3 or 4. So main stems, you know, we've got really good pods set here going down. This is Pioneer 45M35, looking really good here. It's about, you know, 2.5 to 3 feet of main stem. This crop is, you know, up halfway up my chest, so it's pretty tall. Really good looking canola. And at this point, I've been noticing the bug counts have been going down kind of across my territory. I'm hardly finding any seed pod weevils or lygus, but let's take a sweep and we'll find out. All right, so what do we have here? Okay, so this is what I'm left with after doing the sweeping. Couple lygus, couple flea beetle, pretty much almost nothing else. Very, very low numbers here. Here's the first seeded oats on the rye stubble, and as you can see, it is up and out of the ground, which is nice to see. This has been seeded almost exactly a week ago now here. This is Tuesday, and this is looking really good. When it comes out of the ground so fast, you don't have too much of a worry about wireworms or anything, since it wasn't sitting there for 2 weeks getting chewed on by them. So this should be growing and produce a crop in no time at all. Well, here's the corn by Lethbridge, looking really good now, getting up to almost my shoulder height. So it's really grown in the last week. Tissue test last week revealed a little bit of a nitrogen deficiency, and so that is getting fertigated on this week. At this point too, we're getting fairly close to tasseling. We are, let's see here. So this is the last leaf before the tassel comes out. You can see it just right there. So we're probably, next week when I'm here, probably start to see tassels starting to come out. It's about that time. So this is a good time to get your last shot of nitrogen on here and yeah, get that growth really boosted and going. And while I'm here by Lethbridge, I think I'm going to run over to the FMC trials and take a look at their herbicide options for this coming year. Oh, down by McGrath right now, and the irrigated wheat here is looking really good, developing well. This just got sprayed with Miravis Ace about 2 days ago, and it was a good thing it did because the stripe rust infections are getting much easier to find and much bigger. So it is definitely spreading through the canopy in here, which is not really all that nice to see. But hopefully the Miravis will get it under control here pretty quick. Well, these peas down by McGrath are getting just absolutely monstrous after we did the ATP Fortify, the fungicide, as well as the Nature's Aid products. And they're up over my waist now, and I'm a pretty tall guy. And these pods, we've got, you know, 8, 9 peas in every pod, so that is looking absolutely wonderful. Still flowering really strong, and the podding depth is looking pretty good. We got pods forming, you know, halfway up the canopy, all the way up to the top. So the very bottoms, we are starting to see a little bit of disease down here, and that's not uncommon to see in peas, especially when they get this thick. I mean, it's going to be pretty hard to get airflow through a canopy like this, never mind spray droplets. So I don't think there's too much we can do about it. And there is actually a couple little off type peas in here as well, so that's not unusual to see in commercially bought seed. Once in a while you get a maple pea or something sneak its way in, but still fun to see. Taking a look at some durum down by McGrath, and there is quite a lot of leaf disease in here. Lots of these flag leaves have some pretty bad tan spot infections, and some of these ones, like this one here, are 60% or more of the flag leaf is already basically covered, so that really limits your yield and your ability to fill your heads when you get that. And not only that, but we do also have some stripe rust is starting to appear in this durum here as well. So overall, there's been quite the increase in stripe rust in these fields since last week, and unless we get some really hot, dry weather, I expect it to just continue to get worse. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.